And now we go to day 2 of the Tin Soldier 3 Warhammer tournament. I'm up against vampire counts. This is Vol against Bill, and you guys have seen a game against Bill in the GuardCon Trophy mini tournament, and that battle report was indeed posted within the last month. And it's a rematch, essentially. Vampire counts against Tomb Kings, and I've deployed mainly to the left-hand side of the table, infantry in the center, chariots either side, really straightforward setup. This time I've got the light cavalry behind all of my units, really there to act as positions for my liches to actually move to. He's got a forest in the middle of the table to contend with. He's put all of his infantry essentially behind and around the forest, 2 units of cavalry either side, 1 unit of fellbats either side, and his dragon right in the middle. Really kind of worried about his dragon this game. Depends on how he plays it. We'll see how things go very shortly. Next photo, you can see a bit more of a close-up here. He's got his direwolves in between the fellbats and the blood knights. Really, it's a good idea to keep the direwolves together with the blood knights and the fellbats nearby, just to make sure you've got plenty of options to screen, redirect, and so forth, and get the blood knights into combat, into a frontal charge, without losing too many of them. That's really the way to go with Blood Knights. I quite like that unit as a rare choice. With vampire counts, you know, there are disadvantages that your opponent can take advantage of in terms of the Black Coach, Wraiths, Vargolf. Blood Knights are a bit more a solid choice, though. Even though they're frenzied, you can, if you play very well, get a lot out of them. So I think they have a lot of potential there. They're a unit your opponent's very afraid of. I'm very afraid of them in this game. And his vampire count lord, of course, just sitting there on the dragon. And what happens here, if we go to the next image, is that I have picked up the roll for the first turn, moving ahead with my chariots. I think what happened here is that my opponent asked for me to go first, winning the dice roll, but regardless, 2 scorpions moving up in tandem, really the best way to go. I've remembered to deploy my scorpions this game, thank God, and the chariots nearby them. Staying out of range of the fellbats, of course, don't want to get charged. Well, actually, no, staying out of range of the dragon more than the fellbats. I don't really care if the fellbats charge me, because I can actually beat them in combat with any of these units here. And of course, keeping the Hierophant and the Lich Priest in the unit of light cavalry well behind my lines, ready to relocate if they need to use their magic elsewhere. But really a conservative first turn, just getting into position, waiting for my opponent to do something, and just starting to let loose with my Screamer Skull Catapult, really asking for him to come across my side. If he doesn't, then I can just shoot at him. Next image shows you an overview here. I've got the Carrion on the hill, ready to get into the way of any of his units, staying out of range of his fellbats, of course. The unit of chariots on the right-hand side flank really is there to clean up anything except the Black Knights. It's really 1 unit of chariots against 1 unit of Black Knights, and I feel like I have the resources to redirect the Black Knights well enough for the chariots to really hold that flank. The real action is on the left-hand flank here. Of course, there is no center of the battlefield. When you've got a forest set up like that, there's really no fighting in the center, so to speak. It's always going to be on the left-hand side of the right-hand side. The Tomb King has moved up full speed ahead, moved forward 4, magic move 4, and so we're 8 ahead, as you can see from this picture. And just to take a little interlude from this report, I've taken a photo of the table next to us where Richard's vampire, no, not his vampire, Richard's Dark Elf Dreadlord on Black Dragon is in combat with the unit of Man-Eaters here, belonging to Damien. I must say that I love his pirate-themed Man-Eaters unit. He's got a butcher there as well, and Richard is borrowing Anthony's Dark Elf army for this, and the Dark Elf army is converted with conversions from vampire count models. So that's what's going on here. Quite like this photo. I'm not really sure what the result of this game was, but I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of comic relief if you find it comical. But we're going to go to the next photo where all hell is broken loose. And I want to say a few things about this, because we are looking at a photograph taken after the movement phase of my opponent's first turn, Vampire Count's turn 1, and he's decided to charge his Vampire Lord directly into combat with the Tomb Guard featuring the Tomb King. And he's also moved his Direwolves out of the way of the Blood Knights, and he's moved his Fellbats out of the way. So, first of all, the Zombie Dragon charge into the Tomb Guard, and second of all, Blood Knights left out in the open with no screening units whatsoever. So when I saw him move this way, I was, I tried to keep a poker face as much as I could, but I was delighted about his maneuvers because, first of all, moving the zombie dragon to combat with my king is really the only way that I can actually kill his zombie dragon. So, obviously, I was delighted by the fact that I had an opportunity to do that, and thus win the game. Secondly, the Blood Knights was going to be a threat, but now he's giving me an opportunity to redirect them, to frenzy bait them, to do whatever I want. So I actually spoke to him and asked him why I did this, and he pointed out that last game we played, as you guys may have seen in the battle report, the zombie dragon actually did quite well in combat against my Tomb King, and that was the reason why he decided to start things over again, managing to wipe out my entire Tomb Guard unit and both my characters. But in that game, he actually had a fair bit of good luck. With average rolling, you'd expect the Vampire Count Lord to go down. So just based on the previous, a lot of data, he's gone for it again. Secondly, he felt like he'd redirected my charges well enough here with his direwolves, so he'd left his Blood Knights out in the open. Again, I felt like he hadn't quite covered everything there, so we'll see what actually happens here, but I was really surprised by his movement. You may be too after seeing this photo. Next picture, you see a bit more of a better view of what's going on in the background. The zombie's bringing up the rear. He's still got a unit of Fellbats held back. And on the right-hand side, the Scorpion, the Chariots in a position. And if you look at the Chariots pictured in the top right of this photograph, they are able to charge the direwolves here in the next turn. And as you can see, the overrun move would take them directly into combat with the Blood Knights. And that would result into a combat phase which would happen in the following Vampire Count's turn, giving me time to get the other units in position. Of course, the Chariots would die to the Blood Knights, but then I could get a following charge in, a second wave of combat involving both Scorpions. So it seems a bit odd to me that he's allowed that to happen and hasn't really planned ahead a couple of turns. Next photo, it's the Tomb King's turn 2. And the Vampire Lord has gone one round against a Tomb Guard champion as predicted, killed him, and obviously I'll be able to resurrect him in my turn. Moving the archers forward, moving the light cav around, moving the carrion to nearby.